Hello everyone, okay then, so this video is the first of a series looking at the core ideologies of liberalism, socialism and conservatism. I'll make these over the forthcoming weeks and months, so don't expect them all to be on in the next 5 minutes. I thought I'd do the first video to kick off the series on how to answer exam questions on this. So the first thing to note is that the core ideologies will appear in Unit 1. And in Unit 1, there'll be 2 essay questions based on those 3 core ideologies. Now, both the questions can be on the same ideology. So don't think in the exam, oh, I can get away with it and not revise socialism or something, because you'll know that sod's law, that both the questions in the exam will then be on socialism. So it's really important that you revise all 3 of them, because any of them can appear on the questions. The second thing to note in the exam is these questions are going to be worth 24 marks, not 30, which means in the exam you'll have about 30 minutes to answer an ideology question. And so as a consequence of that, your answer will be slightly shorter than it will be for the 30 marker, which would take about 40 or 45 minutes to do. So, looking at these questions then, you do them in the exact same way that you do any other 30-mark essay. So you start out with an introduction, you define any key terms or phrases, but the most important thing is to say, what is your argument? Make that crystal clear. Now, the exam questions for the ideologies, rather than be evaluate the view, which is what they are for most questions, for these ones they are to what extent? To what extent do liberals agree over X, or to what extent do conservatives disagree over Y? They're those types of questions. And I think there are probably 4 kind of fundamental arguments you'll probably have. If you think on whatever it is they've asked, that there's a fundamental disagreement amongst the ideology, there's no kind of reconciliation between them, your argument would be, overall it is clear that there's a huge difference, a huge disagreement over conservatives regarding whatever it is. If though you think it's a bit more balanced than that, but overall they seem to disagree more than they agree, then obviously your argument will be, overall it's clear that they disagree to a small extent, or a phrase of that nature. If you think, or conversely, that there is disagreement but generally they agree more than they disagree, they agree to a small extent, and if you think they fundamentally agree and the disagreements are actually quite trivial and quite kind of small, then they agree to a huge extent. I suspect for most of you, you'll probably have your answer being on the small of either side, I would have thought. The way they've kind of set up these ideologies and the strands they've chosen, the key thinkers that they've used, they do tend to go towards kind of disagreements, I would say. Okay, in the main body then, because you've only got 30 minutes, I would suggest 2 paragraphs. Well, you do the 2 paragraphs in the exact same way that you do any other essay. So let's just say your argument is that liberals agree to a huge extent over human nature. So paragraph 1 will start out, the main argument to show there's agreement amongst liberals over human nature can be seen in their ideas of rationalism. You then need to explain that and explain why, which is crucial for AO2, why they agree. So liberals agree over rationalism because of this, yada yada yada. For example, John Locke says this, which is not dissimilar to Betty Friedan, who says that. So, and you kind of explain why they agree and on what areas they agree over that particular concept. AO2 is basically about why. It's that analyse. Why do they agree on something? You then finish off that half of your paragraph with your therefore to fit into AO3, which is about making judgments. And don't just say therefore they agree. Therefore, it is clear that liberals agree over rationalism because of this and because of that. So again, that fits into AO3. You then would start your counter-argument. So for our example, it'd be where they disagree. However, not all liberals do agree over rationalism. These liberals say this, which is different to those liberals who say this. And you explain why they might disagree on that, fit into AO2. And then you do your little judgment, your little mini conclusion. Therefore, this shows that liberals do disagree over rationalism because of this and because of that. And then the most crucial bit of all is then at the end to say why you disregard the disagreement bit. Although it is true that liberals do disagree on this, overall the argument to say they agree is far stronger because ... You do the same for paragraph 2. And then, of course, you do your conclusion. Try not to rush conclusions. Too many people in the conclusion, they just restate what their argument is. Ideally, your conclusion should say why you disagree with the other side. Although it is true, so you might say, overall it is clear that liberals fundamentally agree over human nature. Although it can be argued there is some disagreement over this and some disagreement over that, these are fundamentally weak arguments because of this and because of that. That is ideally how you should do conclusions. So, as you can see, it's basically the same that you do any other essay. In terms of some differences, the first one is you've got to have at least 2 of the key thinkers within this essay. So if the question is about liberalism, there must be at least 2 out of the 5 liberal key thinkers in your essay. If it's socialism, at least 2 out of the 5, well, I suppose it's 6 really, of the key thinkers, and if it's conservatism, 2 out of the 5 there. I try to avoid just name dropping them, try to use them. John Locke argues this, which is different to Betty Friedan, who argues that. Or Ayn Rand says this, which is different to this one that says the other. So try and make sure that you have these key thinkers in, but try and make sure you use the key thinkers. The second difference over these ideology questions is that you can't use other aspects within them. What I mean by that is that if the question is about liberalism, you can only talk about liberals. Now, if you mention conservatism, you won't get any marks. You won't get marks knocked off. You won't get any marks for them. So, if it's about liberalism, make sure all the key thinkers that you use are liberals. Make sure that all the points are about liberalism and not about any other ideologies. The same for conservatism and the same for socialism. And in fact, going back to the first point I mentioned, the exam specification says you must have at least 2 key thinkers. I think to play it safe, I would have 3, just in case you get one wrong. Now, if you get all 3 wrong, then there's not much I can do for you. But I would try and have at least 3 of the key thinkers from the ideology in there. Don't try and get all 5 in. If don't. Some people try to play bingo and try and get all 5 of them in. It's better to have 2 or 3 of them work properly than have all 5 of them in. But I would aim for 3 key thinkers, because then, as I say, if you do get one wrong, then it's not going to be catastrophe. If you only have 1 correct key thinker or 0 key thinkers, the most you can get is 9 out of 24, which I believe is a grade E. So again, crucial to have these correct key thinkers in. So I hope that's a pretty good overview of how to do these essays. The next video I'll make will be on liberalism, I think.